Something about when we get together and we can declare, I mean, really worship and singing songs to God is a form of prayer in a sense. Every time we connect to God at any level, it's a form of communication, it's a form of celebration, it's a form of connection. And that's what we're all about. We here at Kingdom Culture want everybody everywhere that ever walks into these doors to really just experience God in a real way. And whether that's in the parking lot, whether that's in the lobby, whether that's in the auditorium, our desire is that you wouldn't leave encountering religion, you wouldn't leave encountering some, it was a good, sermon tickling your ears and it was good, but you would leave encountering the presence of God in a real way. That's what I believe heaven truly is all about. We are in a series right now, and we are in the 4th week into it. It's a 5-week series. And it's called 18. We're in 2018, and so we kicked off the year, for those of you who haven't been with us, with a series really focusing on developing our sight for flight. And the whole premise is we can't take off if we don't see where we're going. And sometimes we need some direction for the season. However long the season may be for you, it may be a 5-year season you're in, and maybe a 10-year season, it may be a 1-year season, it may be a 3-month season. But if you can't see where you're going, you won't be able to move forward with enough speed and acceleration to take off. You know what I'm talking about? You need to see where you're going. And so we've been outlining over the last 3 weeks some key things that are going to be themes in some sense for the year, for the season as a house, and for your lives, that I believe if you just implement them into your life, you'll see some amazing things happen in this year, and it will cause you to take flight in areas that you've just been holding off and standing on the runway in for years. God doesn't want you to stay on the runway forever. How many believe that? He wants you to take off. He wants some elevation to happen in your life. We can talk all we want about where we're going, but as long as we're on the runway, we're not going anywhere, right? You gotta move. You gotta move forward, but you gotta see if you're gonna move. And so our whole verse or foundation for this series is found in Psalms 119. Say it with me. Verse 165. It's a big number. 119, verse 165. Those who love your instructions have great peace and do not stumble. Love the simplicity of that message. If we can just get the lights a little bit in here, Scott, please bring the lights up. I love the simplicity of that verse because there's something in us that has to so love His word and instruction to set our lives up so we can move forward, so we do not stumble. God doesn't want the plane of your life to fall over on the runway. He wants it to accelerate forward, to take off of the runway. So to do that, we have to have what? Peace. And to have peace, there has to be this desire to hear what we believe Jesus is saying to us in every season. His instruction. What are His instructions for us in this season of life? I want that, and I hope that you do as well. And I want to just give you a little bit of a recap of the last 3 weeks to bring you up to speed of where we're at. And encourage you, if you haven't been with us, check out the podcast. It's been awesome. I'm not just biased. I really believe it's been awesome. It's been encouraging for myself. It's been encouraging for many people in the house and those that maybe are a part of our internet family or our podcast family that listen on podcast. And the first week, we opened the whole series up with this concept of protecting the prophetic, and really simplifying what it means to be a prophetic representation of the heart and mind of God. A lot of people have mystified this word prophetic and prophecy, and we just in one message, we simplified it for everybody that the whole lifestyle of the prophetic is simply knowing God and knowing what He wants to do in every situation, and representing the heart and mind of God into a situation or to an individual. That's what being prophetic means. And so you're prophetic and don't even know it. You're prophetic and don't even know it. If you have Jesus in your life, you're prophetic. When you walk into your job on Monday and you bring that coffee or you bring that donut or you bring that encouraging word, you just don't realize that every action has the potential to represent the heart and mind of God into a situation. Wow, why are you so nice? Why are you so kind? Wow, why are you so gentle with me? Well, hey, I'm just being a representation of the heart and mind of Jesus. That's what the prophetic is all about. Now, there's multiple layers, but we just basically simplified it for us and how we need to protect the prophetic in 2018 in our lives. Number two was, the second week was protect the environment, and how prosperity in our life and our soul and our well-being, both emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, career, whatever the case may be, in all areas of our life, I believe is directly connected to the people we're associated with. And so we talked about people prosperity and how the people that are in our life are absolutely crucial. The environment that we create within the people in our lives. Number three, third week, last week, we talked about one of my favorite actually was protect the attitude. And the whole premise was move your butt. And how a lot of you got a big butt in your face. But this, but I don't have enough finances, but I don't have, I don't have education, but I'm untrained, but, I'm unskilled, but I have a bad past, and you got a big, massive butt in your face. Then we really milked that illustration, and we told you to slap the butt, move the butt, get the butt out of the way, because the butt is blocking your view of what God wants to do. That's why it's my favorite. My wife was like, you were walking on dangerous territory. Well, I get away with a lot in this house. But this morning, I want to read from a passage out of John chapter 15, verse 4. Really, it's a staple chapter in that Jesus is really getting ready to leave. He's preparing his disciples, bringing them into some real, deep, important teaching. And he's washed already the feet of his disciples. He's representing humility, he's demonstrating humility and what's going to happen to him. And we see in John 15, verse 4, I love this verse. I'm going to read it out of the Voice translation. It says, abide in me, and I will abide in you. It's such a powerful statement. Abide in me, and I will abide in you. A branch cannot bear fruit if it is disconnected. Everyone say disconnected. A branch cannot bear fruit. A branch that is broken on the ground, you will never see bear fruit. A branch cannot bear fruit if it's disconnected from the vine. And neither will you if you are not connected to me. In this moment, he's illustrating that the Father, God the Father, is the vine dresser, the one who prunes. And Jesus is the great vine. And then we are the branches connected into the vine that gets the sap from the roots through the tree to produce fruit. He's drawing an illustration to help us understand, you guys, like, listen, we're connected right now, right? Like, we're hanging out, we're in a moment, I'm getting prepared to go to the cross. Half of you have no idea what's going on. One of you is going to betray me. You're all going to leave me at one point, but you'll all come back. I know how the story ends. And he's teaching these disciples that, listen, guys, you're going to have to make a choice to connect and abide in me, because you're going to go through some stuff. You're going to go through some stuff. And even when you go through some stuff, I'm going to give you the antidote to still produce fruit while you're going through the stuff. Abide in me, and I'll abide in you. And if we're connected, you'll produce fruit. And I want to be the kind of branch that produces fruit in the hardest of seasons, don't you? You want to be the branch that produces fruit when you say maybe you're in a desert season. Everything's not working out for you. You're living a lifestyle of failure, or so it seems. Your marriage is falling apart. Your kids are wayward in the sense they're not following Jesus the way that you hope they would, or you lost your job, or something's just going on where you just feel like everything around you is screaming, you suck, you suck, you suck. And in moments like that, Jesus gives us the antidote. You can produce fruit in even seasons like that. You got to stay connected. So turn to your neighbor, look at him in the eyes and say this. I want you to say this. Say, protect the connection. Protect the connection. And that's what I want to speak just for a few moments. I want to speak to you on this subject of protect the connection. And I want to say this, unplug yourself. And you're thinking, well, it's kind of like an opposite. How do we protect the connection and yet unplug yourself? Well, we know where we live. We live in a society full of connection. Connection is all around us. And don't you think that sometimes to really connect to the right thing, you need to unplug yourself from the wrong thing? And it's hard. Everything is screaming connect. I mean, I always think about like the day that we didn't have cell phones. I remember the car phone. The day that was like a big deal, like, or internet was just coming on the scenes and everybody was saying, oh, it's just a fad. Like, we live in a world so connected, like, we don't have to do much protecting, but we do have to protect the important connections in our life. Because unless we unplug from the wrong connections, we got some bad current coming in to our lives that are robbing us from protecting the right connections in our life. Like, we have an artificial social life now with social media. I'm not knocking social media. I believe in social media. I believe in a lot of ways it's the future. It is now. It's going to only increase the awareness. I believe that we're in an amazing age of resourcefulness, and the educational system is going to change in 20 years. Lots of things are already happening, but even more radically in the next 20 years. And I believe that there is a point to understanding and partnering with the connection that we do have, but not at the sacrifice of the most important things that we need to stay connected in. So track with me a little bit. I want to talk today about protecting the most important connection in your life. Yet sometimes disconnecting from something has to happen before you can connect to the right something. And all of us in this room know right now the things that maybe we're too connected to that are robbing us from the things that we should be connected to. The things that are producing eternal fruit in our life. The things that are producing fruit in our families and our relationships and all the areas of our career and our future. And there's so many distractions. I rebuke the spirit of Netflix. Now, I love Netflix, but I gotta rebuke it sometimes because there's so many options. Like, I could connect to anything. Like, I remember growing up, it was a challenge to get. I mean, when Napster, you guys remember Napster? It was crazy. But it was challenging getting and nabbing the songs when you had dial-up internet. It wasn't as easy to connect back then, right? But now I just turn my TV on, I don't even need cable. Like, in 10 years that I've been married, I've never once had cable. Because we internet and connection and Netflix and Apple TV and all these different things. But you have to disconnect sometimes in a fast-paced, media-driven culture. And I think we become so connected often that we become disconnected, and we need to make some decisions in this time. I get so convicted. One of the most convicting things that happens to me with my kids. I have 4 kids that my wife delivered. Just want to clarify that. And she deserves all the reward. She's worthy of it all because she's delivered the kids. And I have 4 kids, and one of the greatest things that I feel I'm convicted about the most in life is when my kids look at me. Even if it's fine that I'm doing what I'm doing, even if I'm just, I'm actually not really distracted, it's something I have to answer or whatever, when my kids say, can you just get off your phone? It's like the most convicting thing. Even if I was right in being on it, something's happening, my house is burning down, I mean, just in general, when they say that phrase, I didn't have to say that growing up. And there was other things, whether, busyness, job, I don't know, growing up in art in my generation, but my kids, they have to remind me, can you just get off your phone? Can you just, can you just stop looking at your phone? It's convicting. Any other parents, like #parent fail when that happens, when your kids say that to you? Any other parents? Nobody? Only one parent, honest enough. Or nobody else is on their phone ever. Wow, I need deliverance. Okay, you guys over here. But let me just show you something. Jesus teaches us about connection his way. And it's out of John 15:4. The scripture I opened with says, abide in me, and I will abide in you. Stop there. Abide in me, and I will abide in you. This word abide, what does it really mean to abide? One of the definitions of this phrase abide is to continue in connection. You don't just connect one time. Hey, Jesus, come in. The door's open. Awesome. Hang out. I love to have you. Now, I'm continuing every day to invite you in into every situation and every season of my life. Some of us, it's like guests. We invite the guests into our home for dinner, and then we just go upstairs and let them fend for themselves and just spend all the time by ourselves upstairs while our guests are at home eating our food. That's not the kind of relationship we are to have with Jesus, but yet we do without even realizing it. Come into my life, Jesus. You know, I'm all in. Like I'll attend church on Sunday, but then 6 days of my week, I'm not continuing to invite you in to the door of my life. That's what abiding in him looks like. You know, we know this. The good news of the gospel is that Jesus is here, and he's here to stay in the home of your heart. We know that. That nothing can separate his love for you. Nothing can sever that connection. No devil in hell can separate that connection unless you believe the lie that they can. And then all of a sudden you forfeit the reality of the truth that he's always connected to you to a feeling that he's not connected to you. And then you start believing the lie that I'm disconnected. And then you go start doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing, and it destroys your life. And that was all born out of a lie that, hey, you're not worthy to be connected. The cool thing about Jesus is once he connects forever. But our awareness and our everyday invitation is what actually allows us to continue to abide in that place of the connection every day. And when that happens, fruit happens. When that happens, fruit happens. That'd be a good shirt, eh? Instead of the other one. Fruit happens. That'd be a good shirt. Probably already exists. Abide in me and I'll abide in you. Continue. Every day. We did a whole series last year called The Contrast of Connection, and it was around people. And I'm talking today really about, and I'm going to expand on this a little bit, but protecting the most important connection of our life. I said it earlier about Moses, but it wasn't just Moses that modeled connection every day, having like one-on-one time, friend to friend. I'm feeling your breath on my face. I'm close. I'm in intimacy with you. I'm a friend of God. Adam and Eve had it in the garden at one point, and they lost it. They lost that connection. Sin. The decision to be independent, to make your own decision outside of letting God in, to abide and letting him into your decisions. They lost that connection. Abraham fought to keep it. Isaac was faithful to it. Jacob rejected it for a season. Moses modeled it. Joshua learned from it. David had to wrestle it out as the greatest king. Solomon kind of lost it. Jesus became it. The disciples demonstrated it. Jesus died and resurrected to restore it. The whole good news of the gospel is this reality that he died and resurrected to restore the connection that you lost because of one man's mess up. And because of one man's mess up, all humanity was born into a place disconnected from the path that they were called to walk on as sons in a family called the kingdom of God. And so Jesus had to come, die, and become the ultimate sacrifice to restore the eternal connection that was robbed because of one man's decision, which just shows us every day we're a decision away from disconnecting or connecting. Oh, it's so good. We're one decision away from disconnecting, from abiding in God and connecting. One decision. You're having a bad day at work. It's super stressful, and you know what you do to cope with bad days. And you go back to, maybe it's some addiction that you feel like you've let go. You go back to a mindset of unworthiness, and you find ways to cope with your stressful day or whatever it may be for you. Every decision leads to a consequence. Every decision leads to an experience. Every decision leads to something that redesigns and reshapes the way that your brain looks at the world. Every decision to go backwards starts firing parts of your brain that become like cocaine to the soul. Every decision to make the right decision, to let Jesus in, fires parts of your brain that restore confidence, that you can make it, that you can overcome, that you can do the impossible. You're just one decision away every day from disconnecting or connecting. I'm talking really about our connection with Jesus. I was talking to, someone not too long ago about the right iPhone adapter. There's like the iPad adapters, there's like the iPhone adapters, and there's the adapters for your laptop. And the reality of it is, most of them are universal, except with Apple, they have a strategic or strategy behind trying to get you to buy the latest and greatest, right? How many Apple fans in here? Yeah, how many Apple? Shut up, in Jesus' name. Sorry. Something just came over me there. I'm sorry. But I was talking to somebody, and they said, if you use this adapter, although it works and your battery will charge, it'll actually drain your battery for the long term. It's the wrong adapter. There's too much, or there's too much current, or whatever. I'm not, electrician by trade, so there's just too much going through, and it's going to drain the battery. And I just had this thought in a moment where it's kind of like, even though we're connected to something, and we feel like we're getting life from it, if it's the wrong connection, it actually has the ability to drain our life without us even knowing it. And we should have lasted the long haul. We should have lasted a year, and we all of a sudden we burn out after 6 months because we were connecting to the wrong thing. And it was giving us a measure of life, and we felt like it was good and it was refreshing. But then in the end, I don't like how I feel right now. My battery is completely drained. I was getting current, but it was the wrong one. You get what I'm saying? And so we need to unplug from the wrong ones and reconnect to the right ones. So how do we protect our connection with Jesus? This is what I want to talk about. I believe there are 3 important connections we must fight to safeguard as we protect our connection with Him every day. Number 1, write this down. We need to protect the personal connection. And this is this deep, intimate connection with God. The cool thing I love about, one of my favorite things I love about Jesus is that He didn't come to establish a religion, but a relationship. A religion is a bunch of have-tos, and a relationship is a bunch of get-tos. I had the privilege of performing my last grandmother on this earth's funeral on Monday. And it was a private funeral for mostly just family, and family that honestly I hadn't seen in a very, very long time, and really have no deep relationship with, only because of distance and situations and geography. But I had the privilege of getting up there and sharing, and I really didn't know what to share, to be honest with you. I kind of wrestled through it, but I talked around this idea a little bit around, what do you believe about Jesus? Because Jesus asked that question to Martha when He was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. He said, do you believe this? What do you believe? Do you believe this? Do you believe I am who I say I am? I said I am the resurrection and the life. Do you believe? What do you believe? That's the question He's always asking us. And some of us, without even knowing it, believe that Jesus came to give us a religion, a bunch of have-tos. And so we have to do this, and everything's a burden, and we have to do this, and we have to do that, and we have to read our Bible every day and pray and memorize scripture verses to get all this religious pressure that comes on people. But relationship is a bunch of get-tos. You hearing this? It's a get-to. And if you can live from the get-to, you'll always safeguard your personal connection with Jesus in relationship. Maybe you're in this room right now, you don't have a relationship with Jesus, you're on a journey, you're here because you're searching. Religion hasn't satisfied you. Maybe you grew up around church culture, and there's a form of religiosity. You saw hypocrites, and just a little side note, you're a hypocrite too. We're all hypocrites. No, just for real. Just being real for a second. The very people that we often judge, I hear people all the time, well, I don't like Jesus because they're all a bunch of hypocrites. Well, you're a hypocrite too. Guaranteed you've been a hypocrite at one point in your life. We're all standing in our own judgment all the time without even realizing it. Right? Let's just be honest. Nobody in here is perfect. Flawless. You've already judged me. For those of you that are in here maybe for the first time, you're like, who is this guy? What's his education? Why is he wearing Yeezys on the platform? What's going on? I really believe that this question of what do you believe really shapes everything for us. Do you believe that Jesus wants to be your friend? He really does. We have to protect this personal connection. It's a powerful word because favor always comes with connection. You ever heard people say okay, so I've asked somebody, how did you get to be in that room at that time? How did you get backstage at that concert? How did you get to meet that individual? How did you take that guy out for coffee? How did you get on that airplane or go over to that nation or that country? How did you get into that office? And the response is, I have a connection. Anybody ever heard that? Yes. I have a connection. Because connections are the breeding ground for great favor. In the business community, it's said like this: your network is your net worth. You can have all the education in the world and every PhD on the wall, but relationship will open up doors that no education will ever open up for you. When somebody trusts you, you can be the smartest guy in the room, but nobody trusts you. No one wants to work with you. You're not a team player. You're too smart for your own good, in the sense that no one wants to be around you or in your presence. But when you have the right people in your life and the right connections, favor happens. So we need connection. Hence, we're launching our signups today of Connect Groups. We need community. We can't do life alone. We need community that grows us deep with people and with God. And I was thinking about this thought, and I've argued family members about it, and I'm not saying that I'm right, it's my opinion. And this whole concept of when individuals, let's just say individuals, say to a child, and I heard it actually yesterday, and I was dropping my daughter off to ballet. I actually heard a mother say this to their child because she was going to bring the child to get a donut afterwards at Tim Hortons, and I heard the statement, and it reminded me of the many arguments that I've had with people on this statement: oh, you're just spoiled. I have a hard time with that. I'll tell you why. Because when I think of the word spoil, I think of rotten milk. You ever smelt rotten milk? It stinks. No one wants to be around it. Like, you don't even want it. It's garbage. To say somebody is spoiled, now hear me out, okay? Part of it's semantics, but language shapes our belief systems. Words have power. Proverbs 18, verse 21, the tongue is the power of life and death. Those who love it and honor it will eat the fruit of it. That's what it says. So when you say stuff like that, you're spoiled. No longer does that kid feel blessed. I'm favored because I'm connected to my mom, and she wants to bless me with a donut. No longer is it just a blessing, it's I'm spoiled. I don't know about you, that just really irks me. Because that's shaping the children's concept of what it looks like to get favor when you're connected. Now, I know there's a line. I know there's a line. You don't just do everything for your kids for the rest of their life and never give them opportunity to fail, because failure has to happen for success to happen. It's just a reality. You to walk, you gotta fall a few times and crawl and get up and fall down before you start walking. It's a reality. You won't run probably until you walk. You get what I'm saying? There's a reality of falling and failure for success. And so I get there's an element where if I just always hold my kid and never let him try to learn how to walk and fall, then yeah, there's an element where I'm spoiling him. But for stuff like that is to say, if somebody says to my kids, you're spoiled because you got this or you got that, it's to say that as a parent, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't have the right heart to bless my kids because of the connection, father to son and father to daughter. You hear what I'm saying? And what I'm trying to get across to us today is that there's a reward in connection. Because you're my kids, you're going to have blessing in areas of your life that other kids don't. And other kids are going to have blessing in their life that you may not. It's not always the same. Every family has a different measure, a different grace. But I would rather speak over my kids that you're blessed and you're favored, still giving them the balanced opportunity to fail and fall, than ever having them believe that I'm spoiled. Because in our culture, that's a bad thing. You agree. It's a negative thing when someone says you're spoiled. And so I had everything in me wanted to correct that, Mom, but I didn't. I really didn't. No, your child's blessed. It's a donut, man. Like, don't tell that's not spoiling your kid, buying them a donut. Anyways, we're gonna run on a rabbit trail on that one. Rotten milk. I don't want rotten milk, and so I love my kids. My kids aren't like rotten milk. Let me show you the rewards of personal connection. John 15. We're still in this area, this chapter. John 15, verse 11. Jesus is talking to his disciples. I told you these things for a purpose. Because everything Jesus teaches us has a purpose behind it. You know that every relationship that has eternal significance has purpose behind every time that you connect together. Always remember that. Because Jesus did not say anything without purpose. He says, I'm telling you these things for a purpose, that my joy might be your joy, and your joy wholly mature. This is my command. Love one another the way I have loved you. This is the very best way to love. Put your life on the line for your friends. You are my friends when you do the things I command you. Listen, I love this statement. I'm no longer calling you servants, because servants don't understand what their master is thinking and planning. No, I've named you friends, because I've let you in on everything I've heard from the Father. See the reward of connection here, this personal connection, is I'm shifting the gear from you just being a servant doing a duty, because in that place, you don't have a special in. But with God, when you shift from a servant, really as a slave, to a friend, all of a sudden the doing gets so connected to the mission and the heart that all of a sudden now you have an in like nobody else. You're flying on that private jet with nobody else. You're getting that 7-course meal like nobody else, because you're friends. Because friends always share secrets with friends. That's the reward of personal connection with heaven. Which are you hearing me this morning? Are you with me? This word for friend comes from a Greek word that means dearly loved, prized, in a personal, intimate way, a trusted confidant, held dear in a close bond of personal affection. The root of this word that describes what a friend means in this context conveys an experiential personal affection. So it goes from servants doing a duty to I'm experiencing the connection that I have. See, religion offers this opportunity to just fulfill a routine in life with no experience. But relationship offers an ongoing experience. And that's what friendship looks like. That's what friendship really is all about. We need to develop our friendship with God. I had the privilege when I first had my encounter with Jesus to cement this truth into my life. I'm wrecked to ever think that there's anything else but that's more important than safeguarding my personal connection with Jesus. It's nothing, because everything that happens outside of my life that works has to be an overflow of my relationship with Jesus. But in a world of busyness, you guys, and craziness, so many of us have been robbed of our personal connection with Him. We're so plugged in to the wrong things that we can't connect and plug in to Him, the right thing. He's not even a thing, the right person. And then we miss out on life because we're so connected, but to the wrong areas. We live out the majority of our life feeling alone and not feeling good about our lives and missing out on what faith could be, and we struggle with this. But when you have a protected personal connection, doesn't mean you're always going to be feeling everything. I talk to people all the time, whether they're in business, whether they're leaders in some form of high influence, or whether they're part of our house, or just whatever stage and age you're at. I talk to people all the time about this concept of this, I don't feel it anymore, so I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit on my marriage. I'm going to quit my relationship. I don't feel it anymore. Listen, love is not about a feeling. If you fall in love, you will fall out of love. That's a reality. Because if you're falling into it, you're falling into it by a feeling. But Jesus is love, and models love when you don't even love Him back. He's unconditionally loving you every day. Every day. Modeling love every day. Every day, every day, every day, every day. That love that's supposed to change our lives is supposed to be modeled that even if we don't feel something, we choose to love. We choose to restore connection. We choose it because it's based on truth and principle and faith. We walk by faith, not by sight. Sight has a lot to do with how we feel. What we see has a lot to do with what makes us feel certain ways. We don't see the answer to our prayer, so we stop praying. So really, we stop living in faith. We don't see the result and the aftermath that we feel we're promised by God as a reward of faithfulness, so we stop being faithful. We don't see the result or reward of loyalty and consistency, so we stop being consistent. Because we don't feel. So many people, without even realizing, live out of their feelings. But I don't know, I can't escape this reality. Just have a bunch of kids, get married, start a business, lead an organization, and you'll very quickly realize that feelings come and go. They're the most fickle things in our life. I'm good one day and I'm horrible the next day, but I don't give up. I don't give up on God because one day the prayer that I prayed didn't work out and I feel like I humbled myself and lost my reputation. I don't give up because I'm on a journey searching his heart out every day to keep that personal connection. That's what friends do. If you're my friend and you betray me and you hurt me, it shouldn't necessarily change how I feel towards you in my love given to you. It will be a struggle because I won't feel it, right? But love's not a feeling, so if I'm your friend, then I'm going to love you. Like I said last week, love like you've never been hurt. That's the Jesus kind of love. You think his heart doesn't get burdened when you just totally reject him and you just totally ignore him and he speaks to you at your job and he's like, go do this? Just go say to your coworker that, hey, listen, I'm available to pray with you if you need me. And that's all they might have needed, but because you reject, you don't feel like it hurts his heart. It's just a small thing. Just do it, man. Just do it. It's like it's his brand. He wears Nike shoes in heaven, Jesus does. He's like, just do it. Just do it. You don't think it hurts his heart, but he loves you the same. Gives you another opportunity, another test. Love. You're always going to have love tests. Don't let your feelings, whether you have them or not, rob you of protecting the most important connections in your life. Number 2, the people connection. We need to protect the people connection because the people connection in our life has everything to do with how strong our God connection is. You know that? If he was enough, he wouldn't have made a helper in the garden. If God, this is challenging some of your theology right now, it will. If God was enough and all you needed is you and him alone, he wouldn't have made Eve. But he looked at Adam and said, it's not good enough that man is alone. I'm going to make him a helper. Someone that's comparable to him, that complements him. Companionship, fellowship. There is something that people do for your life that God can't do. Let me say it like that. He gave the authority to the individual. You with me? That's why he created Eve. He had a plan in place. So your connection to people in community has a lot to do with how strong your spiritual roots are going to go and how well protected your relationship with God is. Because I don't care how super spiritual you are, without the right people in your life, you will be limited. You become like a potted plant versus a planted plant in a garden. I had a whole message called Breaking the Pot Addiction because some of us are addicted to the potted life. We're in a pot by ourselves. And you know that your roots can only go so deep when you're in a pot by yourself. But God wants to break that addiction in your life so he can replant you into a garden, and now your roots can go deeper, your branches can go wider and higher, and now your root systems share the nutrients of the other root systems, and you get stronger, become more confident, become more powerful in who you are. But you can't do that if you're alone in the pot, in the pot, if you're hanging out with the pot, if you're living in the pot, if you're addicted to the pot. You gotta get out of the pot. You gotta reject the pot. You gotta break the potted life. Get into the planted life. The people connection. Now, the key to protect the people connection, I'm gonna give you one key. Can I do that? One key to protect the people connection. I'm almost done. Track with me here. Romans 12, verse 9 to 10. Let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love. Listen to this. I love this statement. This is the key. In honor, giving preference to one another. You want to protect the people connection in your life? In honor. As a form of honor, give preference to one another. This word to give preference or to esteem literally means to lead the way. It's kind of like the golden rule. Do unto others as you want them to do to you, right? Teaching my kids this yesterday in the van. Don't worry about what she gets or he gets or what you do or what she did. You do what you need to do. Be the example. Lead the way. Be a leader. I tell my kids every time I go off at school in the morning, I tell them, who are you? They say, the Gabies. This is what they do. I say, who are you? The Gabies. And I say, yeah, and the Gabies don't quit. That's what I say to them. Quitting's not an option. Gabies don't quit. I said, listen. I said, who are you? It's the Gabies. I said, look, you are leaders. You're called to own the playground. My daughter Victoria's like, no, I don't like the color of the playground. I'm like, no. You're called to own it. Be confident. You're leaders. Don't just follow around everybody all the time. You be confident. You be secure in who you are. Lead the way. I try to tell them that every single morning. This word for honor, it means this, to pay respect. But I love this. It means perceived value, worth the literal price. It means perceived honor, what has value in the eyes of the beholder. In honor, knowing the value of the people around you, lead the way. Lead the way, and you watch how strong your connections will begin to take place. Watch what happens with the people connections in your life. It's the wrong people versus the right people. The wrong people versus the right people. I think there's so many distractions, would you agree with me, that block us from connecting with the right people. So many distractions. Do you guys know your distractions? Man, everybody in this room should know their distractions. There's people in your life you know you need to connect with. Spiritual community, people in your career community, whatever phase or stage you're in, there's the right people and the wrong people to connect with. I think that we have to choose to every day unplug from some of the bad currents that are coming in that are allowing us to have unprotected connection with the right people or even the wrong people. And I was thinking about my own life and as a leader, and this applies across the board. It's a struggle to maintain all the connections, even as a pastor. With a church this size, there is a stigma that the pastor has to know everything, do everything, be into everything, preach on everything, be able to be all styles of preacher, to touch all styles of people. There's this expectation that should be available all the time. You know, it's all day, every day, nights. I mean, it's crazy. The expectation of what church culture puts on the average pastor. Now, I'm not saying that that's the way necessarily it all is in this house, but it is something that is so challenging as a pastor or as a leader in any organization, is to maintain the connection with the people that you need to maintain. Because if my role changes, if your role changes and you go from, third on the totem pole to number one, your role changes, and if the expectation of the people you used to connect with doesn't change, they get disappointed, they feel abandoned, they feel rejected, and they lose heart, hope, and vision. It's one of the most challenging things. It's like, man, if I had to maintain all the connections that I once started, I would be done. I wouldn't even be here right now. You know what I mean? And so there is always a challenge, and this applies across the board. It is literally one of the most challenging things if you are walking in some form of leadership to protect the people connection. But it is possible to protect the people connection with the right people in the right season. And that's where you need to know His voice. And that's why you need to protect your personal connection with God, to say, okay, I can't meet all the needs right now. I can't meet all the people that I want to meet. I can't connect with all of them. But what I can do, guys, get your heart, get the right people in place, do the things that I can do, and watch you move. But I got to get your heart, protect the personal connection. Proverbs 13:20 says, walk with the wise and become wise. This is why we do connect groups. I encourage you, sign up for a connect group. You'll get wiser. You'll get wiser. You'll go deeper. You'll get stronger. My last point, number 3, purposeful connection. Purposeful connection. We got to protect the personal. We got to protect the people connection, and we got to protect the purposeful connection. What do I mean by that? Well, number 1, connections with people on mission are always stronger than with people without mission. There's purpose in my connection. That's how Jesus operated. He went connected with a bunch of disciples, called them out on their stuff, told them to leave their nets, leave their trades, follow him. And there was a reason, there was a purpose. I've got a mission for you. Peter, you're a tradesman, you're awesome, catching fish. Hey, but I'm going to teach you how to catch eternal fish, and it's going to be awesome. You got to follow me, leave everything behind. Leave your nets. There's purpose behind my relationship with you. Purposeful connection is one of the strongest connections that we can have. Let me read it to you again, John 15, verse 11. Jesus saying, I've told you these things for a purpose. I've told you these things for a purpose. Everything that I do, everything that I am with you has a purpose. And there are things right now in our lives that are trying to rob us of fulfilling the purpose in our life and protecting the purposeful connection that we have. Maybe it's our phones, maybe it's social media, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's some other thing that you're doing that's just maybe robbing you of protecting the purposeful side, not only the personal side with your relationship with God and the people side, but the purposeful side of your connection to life. And sometimes we've got to make the hard choice to unplug so we can plug into the right thing, the right areas of our life. Proverbs, the last scripture I want to read to you, 19 verse 21, says a person may have many ideas concerning God's plan for his life, but only the designs of his purpose will succeed in the end. This is the most discouraging verse that I think is in my whole message. You know why? Because how many have had a lot of plans in life, a lot of goals, a lot of targets, right? Track with me. You've made your resolution, your New Year's 2018 resolution. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. But you don't know what life's going to throw at you, right? So you make your plans. And I'm fully advocating for making your plans. Be prepared. But just know that God's middle name is interruption. His middle name is interruption. Some call him Jehovah Sneaky. He just sneaks in and rearranges everything. And this is that verse. Solomon, the wisest of all the land, writing this. A person may have many ideas about God's plan for their life. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But only the designs of his purpose will succeed in the end. In other words, you're in big trouble without him. You're going to waste a lot of time. I don't like wasting time. Anybody else like not wasting time? It all flows from this personal connection with him, friendship with God.